Today, we're diving into a classic showdown in the world of instructional design. In one corner, we have the established veteran, Addy, and in the other, the fast, agile challenger, Sam. We're going to break down how these two approaches tackle the huge challenge of creating training that can actually keep up with the crazy pace of modern tech. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in this situation? You finally sit down to learn some new software, you open the tutorial, and the screen in the video looks absolutely nothing like the software you're actually using. It's a super common problem, right? In a world where software gets updated constantly, training just can't seem to keep up. And when that happens, users get frustrated and the software's value just plummets. You know, this problem actually has a name. It's called training debt. Think of it like financial debt. It's this gap that just keeps getting wider and wider between what the software can do and what people are trained to do with it. And just like real debt, the longer you ignore it, the more it accumulates, and the harder and more expensive it becomes to ever catch up. And this all leads us to a really critical business metric, time to value, or TTV for short. Basically, this measures how fast a new customer can start using your product and actually get the results they paid for. So you can see how effective, up-to-date training is absolutely essential for crushing that TTV and proving your product is worth the money. All right. First up, let's talk about Addy. This is the OG, the original blueprint for building training. It's methodical, it's super thorough, and it follows this very clear linear path, kind of like a waterfall where everything flows in one direction. So ADD was actually born back in the 1970s. It was developed for the US military to create training that was predictable and repeatable every single time. And its logic is really simple. You have to fully complete and sign off on one phase before you can even think about starting the next one. There's no skipping ahead, no going back. And these 5 steps are where Addy gets its name: analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. Each step has to be perfect and produce a formal document that becomes the foundation for the next step. The whole idea is to prevent any mistakes by doing just a massive amount of meticulous planning right at the start. But here's the thing about Addy. Its greatest strength is also its biggest weakness. That systematic, super thorough approach is fantastic for creating well-documented training for things that don't change. But what if something does change, like a surprise software update halfway through the project? Well, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. It's incredibly slow, it's rigid, and making changes gets really, really expensive. And this quote just nails it. In an environment that's constantly changing, like software development, a rigid, linear process just can't hang. By the time an Addy project is finally finished and delivered, the software it was designed for might have already changed completely. So what's the alternative? Well, meet Sam. If Addy is a waterfall, then Sam is a loop. Or, more accurately, a whole series of loops. It is built from the ground up for speed, for flexibility, and for constant improvement. SAM, which stands for the Successive Approximation Model, was literally created to solve ADD's biggest problems. It takes its inspiration from agile software development, and it starts with the assumption that you're not going to get it perfect on the first try. The goal here is to build something, test it, learn from it, and improve it through these really rapid successive cycles. And you can see how different the process is. SAM kicks off with a quick preparation phase, just enough to get started without getting stuck in analysis paralysis. Then it jumps right into iterative design with this awesome collaborative meeting called a savvy start. From there, it's all about iterative development, where you build, test, and refine progressively better versions. You start with a rough alpha, move to a better beta, and end up with a polished gold version. The real engine of SAM is that savvy start. It's where all the key players get in a room and just brainstorm ideas super quickly. Instead of creating massive, detailed design documents, they create rough prototypes, sketches and storyboards, just to see if an idea even works. Then it's just this constant cycle of design, review, and feedback that takes the project from a basic alpha all the way to that final, polished gold version. Okay, so we've met our 2 contenders. Now it's time to put them head to head. Let's really see how the waterfall stacks up against the loop. This table really lays out the key differences. Addy's flow is sequential, one step after another. Sam's is cyclical, with everything happening in overlapping loops. This makes Addy really inflexible and slow, while Sam is built for change and gets you to market way faster. But look at that last row, SME input. That's your subject matter experts. With Addy, they're really only involved at the very beginning and the very end.
With SAM, they are partners throughout the entire process, which, you can imagine, leads to a much more accurate and relevant final product.
When you boil it all down, it's really a difference in philosophy. Addie is a perfectionist. It tries to get every single detail right in the planning phase before a single thing is built. Sam, on the other hand, is a pragmatist. It accepts that the best product is going to emerge over time through trial, error, and a ton of feedback. It's all about getting a functional version out there fast and then making it better. And this points to a massive strategic advantage for Sam. Think about it. With Addie, you could be months deep into development before you realize there's a fundamental flaw in the original plan. That means catastrophic, expensive rework. Sam avoids this risk by testing ideas early with cheap, fast prototypes. It's all about that fail early, learn quickly mindset, which saves a ton of time and money in the long run.
So, does this all mean it's just Sam good, Addie bad? Well, not exactly. The smartest approach here isn't about picking one and ditching the other. It's about knowing when to use the strengths of each to your advantage. The choice of which model to use should be totally strategic. It all comes down to asking two key questions. First, how volatile is this subject matter? Is it changing all the time? And second, how fast do you absolutely need to get this training out the door? Your answers are going to point you in the right direction.
And you can see how this plays out in different scenarios. For creating e-learning about constant software updates, pure SAM is a no-brainer. You need that speed and flexibility. But for teaching foundational, stable theories, maybe in an instructor-led class, Addie's methodical rigor is actually perfect. And for really high-stakes compliance training, where every detail and every piece of documentation matters, Addie is absolutely the right choice. It's all about using the right tool for the right job. So, what are the big takeaways here? What can you actually do? First, think about blending the models. Use Addie's really powerful analysis phase to kick things off and get your bearings. Then switch to SAM for fast iterative development. Second, make that savvy start meeting mandatory. Force that early collaboration to make sure you're not wasting time in a bad idea. And third, focus on microlearning. Shift your resources to creating smaller, modular pieces of content that you can build and update really, really quickly. And all this leaves us with one final big question to ask about your own work. Is your learning and training built like a detailed, rigid blueprint that's set in stone from day one, or is it built more like a series of evolving prototypes designed to adapt and improve over time? The answer to that question might just determine whether you're finally closing the gap on your training debt or just falling further and further behind. Thanks for watching.